Welcome to Door Decor by Laurie. Today in this tutorial, you're going to learn how to make this beautiful rose gold and white deco mesh wreath. And it also has a pearl center. I kind of think this wreath gives an ombre effect, so that's what I'm calling it, my ombre wreath. In the comments, I'll have a list of all the supplies you'll need to make this wreath. And there'll also be a link to my Etsy shop where this wreath will be available for purchase. I hope you enjoy the tutorial. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so today I'm going to show you a wreath made out of strictly Deco mesh, which is something a little new. I usually work with poly burlap mesh and Deco mesh together with the fusion technique I've shown you before, but today it's going to be strictly poly mesh. Now there's one thing you have to remember with poly mesh is it kind of has a mind of its own sometimes, so you just have to play with it a little bit more. And you'll also use, you're going to need to use a little bit more. So I'm going to be using today 2 rolls of a rose gold deco mesh. I guess maybe I should do it like this. And 1 roll of a white deco mesh. Now, I will tell you, I don't think I won't use both rolls, but I'll probably use 1.5 rolls of the rose gold. For the first layer, I'm going to need 25 cuts of the rose gold. Then for the second layer, I'm going to need 30 cuts of the white deco mesh, and then for the third layer I'm going to need 16 cuts of the rose gold. So I'll use usually you normally get 30 10-inch cuts from each roll, so I'll be using 1.5 rolls of the rose gold. So I'm going to get my wood burner set up. I already have my glass cutting board, so I'm going to get everything set up, and I'm going to show you how I cut the deco mesh, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I know it's a little hard for you to probably see this deco mesh, but I'm going to put the one end here on my 20-inch, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to cut it at the 10-inch because we're going to make 10-inch squares. So what I always do when I'm cutting the poly mesh or deco mesh, now the poly burlap I should say, is I try to go in between the squares to cut it. So I'm going to go right down, trying to keep in between the squares here and cut down the line. I'm going to hold it. And the poly mesh will fray a little bit more than the poly burlap. So that's just something you have to remember. But cutting it with the wood burner does help. And I also want to show you, I also use, on all my wreaths, I use a Mod Podge. It's a matte finish to help with the fraying. And then I also use the Rust-Oleum 2x Ultra Cover Matte Clear Spray, which down here, I don't know if you can see it, it helps with it's UV resistant, so it helps with the fading. So I probably really only need to use the one, but I use the Mod Podge, and I think especially with the deco mesh, it's going to really help with the fraying, help cut down a lot more with the fraying. So you don't necessarily need these, but if you sell your wreaths, it's something you might want to think about, especially if you can only get one. This is about $3.89, and this is probably about $4 depending on where you get it. This will help with the fraying and the UV protection, and this helps with the fraying. So I use both, especially on the wreaths that I'm selling. So it's totally up to you. But that's something else that'll help with the fraying. So I'm going to continue to cut my deco mesh, and then I'll come back and show you how I put together the petals. Okay, so now we have all of our deco mesh cut, and I've got my 10-inch wreath form, and I have my plastic mesh in the middle, and I have it zip tied to the wreath form, and all you do is, you know, trace the outside of the inner circle and cut it out and put it on with some zip ties. So this wreath form, as all the wreath forms, have 1, 2, 3, 4 rings. We're going to be starting on the second ring. And what we're going to do is we're going to take one of our 10 by 10 cuts, and we're going to have the finished side on the top and on the bottom. And then we're going to take the ends and we're going to meet in the middle. And we're simply going to gather it up. And then we have a bow tie. And then what we're going to do is we're going to bring the left one over the right one. And we're going to kind of flatten it out. Make sure you want to make sure they're a little even here. And we're going to flatten it out. And it's our basic petal, which looks like this. And what we're going to do for this minute is we're going to make sets. I'm going to use a clip, and I'm going to put that to the side, and I'm going to make another petal. We're going to meet in the middle, and we're going to gather it. We're going to turn it over. We're going to bring the right or the left up onto the right, and make another petal, and we're going to flatten that one out. And then we're going to bring this first petal back over, and we're going to put them together so that they're laying like that on top of each other. And then we're going to take a 4-inch zip tie, and we're going to zip tie it together. And then this is going to be a set. So we're going to pull the zip tie tight, and then we have a set. And then what we're going to do is, in between each of our brackets here, we're going to put 2 sets. So I'm going to take an 8-inch. Here, I'm going to take an 8-inch zip tie, and we're simply going to place this first set on here with a 8-inch zip tie. Make sure it's turned the right way. And it's not turned the right way. Let's do that again. We'll put our zip tie in. We're going to put our set on here. And we're putting it on the second ring, remember. And we're going to pull that tight. Clip this off. And then I already have another set made up. So we're going to, remember, put 2 sets per section. And I'm going to lift. Let me put this on here first. Okay. Put this on the second row. We're going to zip tie this on. Like this. We're going to make sure it's nice and tight. And we're going to make sure that they lay on top of each other. And if you have a set that's like a little wonky and you want to keep them straight, we did the zip tie this way, so I'm going to do it. I'm going to put another 8-inch zip tie on here, and I'm going to put it on the opposite way so we can get them a little straighter. With the Deco mesh, it kind of has a mind of its own, so sometimes you just have to play with it and have little tricks here that you do that keeps it going the way you want. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I'm going to put the zip tie going the opposite way to help straighten it out a little bit here. the Deco mesh is so much thinner than the poly burlap. So it does have a tendency to kind of do what it wants. So again, we're going to lay that over the top. And we want to have this look something like that. And then what we're going to do on the brackets, we're going to take another 10 by 10. We're going to meet in the middle, and we're going to gather it and flip it over for our bow tie. And we're going to put the one over top of the other. And then we don't need to zip tie because this is just going to be a single one. And we're going to put this on the bracket. So we're going to put this on the bracket. You just need the one. I'm going to zip tie that. And then I'm going to gently lift the bottom one over. And then we have all of our petals. And you're going to want to just carefully move them a little bit so that they look somewhat even. This one is a little wonky, but this is kind of the look that we're going for then. So, and we'll put one more single one right here. Get that out of there. And we're going to take the ends, we're going to meet in the middle, which wasn't really the middle there. We're going to meet in the middle, we're going to gather, gather, gather. We're going to turn it over so we have our bow tie. And we're going to bring the left one over the right one. Make sure it's somewhat even there. And then I'm going to put this one on this crossbar. And then we're going to do that, and we're going to need 25 cuts for this first layer, for the bottom layer here. Oops, I don't let it slip. So I'm going to pull that tight. Cut it. And so then that's how we're going to continue going. We're going to fix this one a little bit there. And pull this out. And I'm going to continue going like this. So we're going to put two here, one here, or I should say 2 sets here and one here, and another 2 sets, 1, 2 sets, 1, and 2 sets. And then I'll come back and show you the next layer. Okay, so now I've got the first layer done of the rose gold Deco mesh. And now we're going to start the second layer. And the second layer is going to be on the third ring. And we're going to do our double petal, and we're going to put it in between each of the other petals. So I'm going to take my white that I have, I'm going to move this over, and I'm going to continue to make the same double petal. I'm going to take the ends, meet in the middle, gather it, turn it over, whoops, and I just lost my, and bring the left one up over the right one, make sure it's gathered there, and I'm going to get my clothespin, just hold this, put that aside while I'm going to make another one. And we're going to meet in the middle, we're going to gather, bring it over, and bring it together. Now all Deco mesh is all a little bit different. So this Deco mesh is a little thicker and lays maybe a little nicer, not so bad. So I'm going to get my zip tie, and we're going to zip tie these together. And I'm using a 4-inch zip tie here. We're going to zip tie it, get our cutters. I'm going to try and flatten it out a little bit here before I attach it. And then I'll bring my wreath over, and then what we're going to do is we're going to attach this on the third ring in between each of the other bundles. So I'm going to get my zip tie, and I'm going to lay this down in there, and I'm simply going to zip tie it to the third ring. And flatten it out there a little bit. Okay. Let me do another one real quick here. Move this over. We're going to meet in the middle. We're going to gather, turn it over, put the left over the right, and hold it with our clothespin. Or clip bag, or bag clip, or whatever you might have. I like to make sure that everybody can find everything that I use. So a clothespin's pretty easy to find. So I'm going to take the one I've already made, kind of put it on top, and I'm going to get another zip tie, and we'll zip tie this together. Kind of flatten it out a little bit. My wire cutters. I'm going to get an 8-inch zip tie, and we're going to put this between the rose gold, and get my zip tie here. Now you know this Deco mesh sticks together, so you want to be a little gentle with it, and I zip tie this down. Use my wire cutters. And now we're going to do the same thing that we did with the rose gold, is we're going to put the last one over top, so that it's all going to go around and lay nicely, hopefully. That's my intention. Okay, so I'm going to continue going and putting the bundles of the 2 petals in between each one, and then I'll come back and I'll show you the next layer, and then how we're going to do our center. Okay, so the second layer has 15 white double petals, and the third layer has 9 rose gold double petals. Okay, so I'm back, and I'm going to show you how to make the center of the flower. So the problem I had is I used my old phone to video all of my segments, and when I was videoing the segment of how to make the middle, my phone stopped working, and I didn't realize it cut off. So this is after the fact. So, but I'll still be able to show you how I did it. So what I use for the middle is I buy these 2 styrofoam discs. They come 2 in a pack from the Dollar Tree, and of course they're $1. And then what I do is, this is what they look like. And what I do is I get a knife and I just go kind of diagonally and get off all the sharp edge, and then I get a piece of sandpaper and then just rub it so that the edges are smoother. So then you end up with something like this, so that it kind of is like a, I don't know how to explain it, like a, you got the top and then it gradually goes down. So this way when you're laying, what I used was pearls or something, it's going to lay nice. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is not perfect by any means. But it's a little better than just trying to, it'd be very hard to get the pearls to look nice going around the edge. And then this way it'll just fit nicely in the wreath. So what I do, let me get my floral wire real quick. Sorry, I thought I had that right here. So what I do before I start doing anything on the front, I turn it over. I get my floral wire. And I've said this before, I like the floral wire, this type of floral wire, where you can cut it to the length you want. You can buy this wire in a package pre-cut. I just prefer it this way, but there's no right or wrong. It's just whatever you like. And then, so what I do is I just tie the ends together. And then what I'm going to do is I use these quilter pins, and the quilter pins are kind of long and they're not going to fit, they're going to show through, so I cut them with my wire cutters. So I'm going to just secure the wire, the floral wire, with these quilter pins. And then what I'm going to do, just push it down nice and tight, and just let it come through a little bit. And I'm going to use my hot glue, and I'm going to put some hot glue out here. I just turned this on, so. And then I take a little piece of felt. Now I cover all the back of my wreaths with felt, so I just use some extra felt that's left over. And I put some glue on there, and then I put this over top to kind of extra secure, keep the wire in place. And then here's a little hint, which I'm not using right now, but I have these little, they're now called craft, these craft things. I have these little craft, little rubber things that you can put on your fingers when you're using hot glue, so that you don't burn yourself. And I've burned myself many times. So you can just use these. I do have a Amazon affiliate store where I have everything that I use for crafting on that store. And I'll leave that in the comments below. So if you're interested in seeing and the things that I use, it has my glue gun, it has my wire cutters, and it has a few other things. It has my my wood burner, it has the glass cutting board, it has the plastic mesh that I use in the middle of my wreaths, it has my mat here. So, and I do make a tiny bit of money if you do buy something from my affiliate shop, but that's just where, so I don't have to go searching for things either. So I have everything there, so I can just myself order it from there too. So just putting that out there. But anyway, so once you do that, what I did then was, you can turn over, and then I'm not going to put that, I'm not going to do this because I'm going to save this in case I don't think I have enough pearls here to fill this whole thing up. But what you would do is you'd put some glue in the center and you'd put the pearls on, and then you would just go around in a circle and with the pearls. And then that's basically your center. Now you have to be careful with the hot glue. You can leave it dry for a few seconds, about 15 or 20 seconds, and you're still able to move it around a little bit. So if you're not quite in the center, you still have time to move it around. So that's how I made this center. I know this is like after the fact, but when you're all done with everything, this is what the wreath looks like. And I think it turned out pretty nice. Let me lift this up a little bit. Sorry. So this is what the wreath looks like when you're done. There. And I think it did turn out really nice. Let me see if I can lift this up a little bit so you can see. So that's how the wreath turned out. I'm very happy with it. I'm sorry this video is a little wonky. It did cut out in the last segment also, where I was showing you just the second layer of petals. So if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I will have a list of everything that I used to make this wreath in the comments. And I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you. I'll see you next time.